Welcome all you cool cats out there to Dead Air Live. Dead Air Live rocks. And that was done, St. Goes Marching In, by some local kids in Cambridge. And wasn't that a wonderful song? Those kids are so great. It's just totally awesome. We have a wonderful show for you tonight. I am your video DJ for this evening with class actions here, and just everybody, the whole place is jumping and rocking, and it's just, the vibrations in this place is so awesome. It's totally cool. And we have a wonderful tape for you to show tonight. And our first tape is called Gloria by Limbo Race. Is that ready, guys? Can't see. It's not ready yet. Oh, well. That's life in showbiz, you know. Have to cue the tape up, and it takes quite a long time. But you can go to see. Oh, is it cued now? Tape is cued. Let's go to that wonderful tape.
I'm waiting for my friends. Dreaming of a certain kind of thing. I'm dreaming on a metal wing. I'm dreaming on an emotion. I'm dreaming on a sweat in the ocean. Well, looks so sweet. A bullet hole in my eye. So neat. I don't have to ask why. G L O I G-L-O-R-I Whisker cute. Take it, John.
She said I got a little bit of smooth. I said I got a little bit of what?
G-L-O-R-I-N 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 Oh, come on. A lot of rockin' pests out there. Can make up 4 lines. Come on, tell us about high school. Tell us about Somerville High School. Well, there was this girl. I don't remember her name. But every time I got out of gym class, you know, she put me to shame, cold sweat, blushing, looking, turn down the hall. Can't think no more, can't see no more, can't. Oh, come on. But there's a feeling in my mind. Come on, fresh and clean. Well, there's gotta be a love. Well, it's gotta be love. G-L-O-R-I-L. 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 Now I know there's a lot of pests. You done had a personal experience, some kind of feeling that you want to deny, you can't deny, you want to deny, you can't deny. Sooner or later, you gotta go live, you gotta go live, you gotta go live and declare, on the cable declare your love. You gotta declare your love. You gotta declare your love. G-L-O-R-I-A. Any more comments? Tell you about my baby, when she comes around, about 5 feet 4, from her head to the ground. It come around here, just around midnight, make her feel so good, you make me feel alright. Her name is Steve. Patricia, you want to sing? Does she come around here?
Yeah.
Just around midnight. Make me feel so good. Make me feel alright. She comes walking down my street. She comes walking up to my house. She tells me Jesus died for somebody's sins, but not mine. That's what she tells me. I say, well, come in here anyway. He knocked upon my door. She knocked upon my door. I go answer the door. Of course, standing there. Go shout all night. Go shout it every day. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Welcome back. That was Gloria by the band Limbo Race. My name is Greg Rosenberg, and this is the interview segment for our program. And tonight we're up close and intimate with Class Action, which is a Boston-based band. And tonight we have two members of Class Action, and their names are, from my left to right, is Neil Helm, who's a bassist and vocalist with the band, and David Rizzuti on the right, who's an electric guitarist and also a vocalist with the band. Welcome and thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Intimate, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, all right. Glad that's over with. So anyway, let's start with just kind of, you know, your basic 2-minute overview of the band. Tell us a little bit about the music that you play.
Well, we're an original rock band. We spend a lot of time trying to attach labels to our music so that when we're asked this question, we'll be able to come up with a witty response. The best thing we could come up with was easy metal last night. That
Easy
was,
metal.
yeah.
I left before we got to that stage.
We're perceived by others definitely to be a rock act, I would say, but for me personally, it's more involved than that. We borrow from a lot of influences. We play Japanese horror theme movie music, and you know, I guess I could cite a lot of examples that would be pretty boring, but
Yeah. Let's see, what's the other good one? Klezmer. We have a little klezmer music in us.
Excellent taste.
Yeah.
wow.
Get the clarinets hopping, but certainly for the past year, we've been much more rock-oriented, much more, well, not the guitar-oriented rock. Oh, sorry, Dave. That most people are playing right now. We have prominent keyboards, and but not synthesizers really, like the other side of the coin today. Old Farfisa, cheesy organ, real cheesy organ, and more piano textures. But we're a rock band.
Well, let's back up for a second and talk about how both of you originally got involved in music. David, why don't you talk about that?
Well, I always loved music. I was the little kid who stood in his crib and you know, swung to the Beatles before he could walk. You know, like, maybe that sounds, that dates me, but
Yeah,
but,
it does.
I always loved it, and then, you know, was given presents of little stringed ukuleles when I was a child, and then eventually grew up to be a 12-year-old boy and got a guitar. And I taught myself pretty much. And
Who are some of your early guitar heroes?
well, I always loved Jeff Beck and all the sort of blues guitar players, heroes from the '60s were really where I thought the sort of hair-raising sounds were. You know, I really get a physical sensation sometimes when I listen to other guitar players really tear loose. I love the Allman Brothers, and I actually had the opportunity to meet Dickie Betts one time, and he's sort of one of my real all-time heroes too.
Was he a nice guy?
He was a very interesting fellow.
Yeah.
Was he drunk?
No.
Yeah. So when, at what point did you start playing out?
Well, I would have been 17 or 18. In New York, I had a little band when I was just out of high school. And we used to play in this club called Kelly's Village West. And it had a little 2x4 stage on it, about as big as this square. And you know, we'd set up drums and all sort of teeter on the edge and play.
Yeah,
but I really, you know, I just loved it.
First
I
gig
knew it was
stories
for
are
me.
always the best.
Well,
Definitely.
Neil, let's hear your first gig stories.
At a block party, and we didn't have any real amplifiers, so we borrowed all of our father's
Speakers.
stereo equipment
Yeah.
and blew them all out before the end of the day.
It was a learning experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, I learned never to use stereo equipment again for my bass.
So how did you first become interested in the bass?
That has a lot to do with the first gig story. I was born and bred a piano player, more or less. And when the kid next door, I'd given up piano because I didn't see myself as having a future in the classical world, because that was the only door that had been open to me, basically. But the kid next door got a set of drums and it was all over. And I would play the piano, but then we got our big gig at the block party, and I had no equipment. I had no electric piano, and we didn't have a bass player. And this kid down the street had a red plastic Japanese bass with a neck that was warped a good 1 inch. So I got blisters and played that first gig on bass. And I've been hooked ever since. You got a lot of control down there. You can shape things, because there's no one else playing down there on the bottom with you.
But it doesn't have the glamour that lead guitar does.
No, but when we're rich and famous, I'll be able to go out to the restaurant and eat in peace. And Dave will have people screaming and tearing his clothes off and asking for autographs. And so, you know, there's always a good side to it.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right, are we ready to go to tape? Yes, are we ready to go to tape? That's an affirmative. I guess we're ready to go to tape. So we'll be coming back to talk some more about these guys. They just came out with an album, their soon to be released album, and also talk some about the Boston music scene. But first, we're going to go to another tape. This is a tape, music tape of a band called The Dark. Live at the channel, right, as the sign says. So, as soon as I fade off the screen, they will fade on the screen. So let's go to them.
cold breath, your cold breath, just let me touch you. Whatever is left, you are not alone in this dark world. I'm with you here in this dark world. We can still make love in this dark world. And we are dancing here in this dark world. Dark world. How much to bring a change? Let me touch you, see how you're arranged. Let's move together through our new home. What was one share is lost dark world, dark world, dark world, dark world. We can live, dark world. We can sleep, dark world. We can stand, dark world. Only you. Let's make love, so let's make love as best we can, and let's dance to the best laid plans. You are not alone in this dark world. I am with you here in this dark world. We can still make love in this dark world. And we are dancing here in this dark world. Dark world.
It was a big infringement.
You are not alone in this dark world. 'Cause I am with you here in this dark world. We can still make love in this dark world. Well, we are dancing here in this dark world. Dark world. In this dark
That was a pretty wild tape. And they came in second place in the WBCN Rock and Roll Rumble a couple years back. I don't remember what year they came in second. But way before, a couple years before that, the tape we saw earlier, Limbo Race, they came in first place in the BCN Rock and Roll Rumble. they disbanded, and Randy Black, the lead singer, had started to form another group called Dr. Black's Combo. I wish them luck. Hopefully something will come out of this one, maybe an album. Maybe they'll get worldwide recognition, not just locally. But going back to the interview, that was a really great first half of an interview. Greg is so awesome with that group. They are so good. I really like listening to the bands talk and hearing about how the history of the music and how people fall in love with music. Each band, each person has different feelings, how they fall in love with music, and it's interesting to hear. Because music hits people in a different way. I love to listen to soft rock. Some people listen to hard rock and go to the punk rock and go to the clubs. You can go to the Metro, the Channel, Central Square. Mostly Kenmore Square is where a lot of people go to, but there's also they used to have bands at the Jumbo. I don't know if they still do in the Jumbo in Somerville. But if you look in your local, the Boston Globe on Thursdays, they have the calendar section. In the calendar section they tell you, so you can look and see when Class Action is going to be playing around in the local clubs. So if you're the right age to go into the clubs, go out and see them. It's the best thing in the world because it's fun and interesting. It's a great evening out. It's not too expensive when you go to the local ones, but out in Kenmore Square it's kind of expensive. I heard the Channel was expensive, so get ready to spend some money. So go out and have a good time. Don't get too drunk now because you want to get home in one piece. Get back to your parents or to wherever you live. Getting a stretch sign here. It's taken sometimes to get. We have to pop in and out of the tape, so it takes a while to get to the next tape. So let's talk about the next band. I haven't heard the next band, but a lot of people in the group have. They're a really good band, so I hope people will enjoy the tape. They're called the Fusion Band because they get their music from jazz and different variety of places. I don't understand why they're called a fusion, but maybe I'll learn something here tonight. I don't know much about bands, but I'm willing to learn. I'm open to learning new things, so if people want to teach me about bands, that's fine with me. So they're still looking for the tape. Friday nights and Saturday nights, I heard they have some good bands and the Channel. I know some friends who go out to the Channel and listen to the bands in the Channel, or there's some clubs and some side streets. You gotta look at it on the side streets in Central Square. In Central Square, I can't remember the name of the place, somebody told me, but there's a place, club, you can go see local bands. And also, even the younger kids now. My brother was telling me today that the younger kids in his video group, they formed a band, they just got a singer, they had the music, now they're writing the words. Well, can't finish my story. Let's go to Original Rhythm Method, a fusion band. Hopefully it'll be a great song.
Whoa, Ted, I'm sorry.
We're back. That was the original Rhythm Method band that you just saw. And I'm back in the studio with two of the members of Clash Action, Neil Helm and David Rizzuti. I forget last names easily.
That's an easy
That's a tough one, too.
So anyhow, let's pick up where we left off. We were talking about kind of first influences and first musical garage band experiences. And so Neil, so tell us about who some of your original bass or music heroes were.
Well, I got into the thumpy, real bottom-heavy bass players like Jack Cassidy, Jack Bruce, Barry Oakley from the Allman Brothers gave me a real melodic influence. But then later on, I kept going back to the real bottom-heavy, punchy bass players. Still a big fan of Robbie Shakespeare. Incredible reggae bass player.
I saw him with Black Uhuru a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm. Those two, Sly and Robbie, brought so much innovation to so many artists, and I really think gave Black Uhuru the edge that they needed to be something other than just another reggae band.
Well, they also introduced a lot of technological innovations to their instruments.
Yeah, that's because they're electronic whizzes. There's a lot of money to be made in that field, too. Tom Scholz, while he was all tied up in court with the Boston thing, and before they managed to sell out 9 shows at the Centrum, there were, 6 or 8 years where he was diddling around with electronics and came up with tiny little boxes, the Rockman.
Studio standard.
And made lots and lots and lots of money while he was spending it in court.
Yeah, and parents who didn't want to listen to their kids practice guitar bought them by the thousands.
Oh, everybody.
Yeah.
People from that range to practicing musicians to studio whizzes, because it's a neat sounding box.
Right, and you can
What
get
you
thousands of dollars worth of sound for
Right.
$199.95. Of course, it's quite a bit more right now. Let's shift some gears and talk about the album that you have been working on, and which is going to be, you'll be giving birth to it publicly in a few weeks.
Yes, hopefully by end of September, beginning of October, we should have this thing back. Pretty much the only thing left to do is have it imprinted on vinyl. The covers are finished, they're ready. The labels are finished. We just have to get everything put together and shipped to us, and then we get to ship it out to somebody else. And then promotion.
Now, has the experience turned out to be anything like you thought it would be before you started?
Yeah, we were prepared for it because we've been at it for 6 years. I mean, we've never taken on something this big by ourselves, but to date, the biggest project we've taken on is an EP that we released in 1983. But we knew what it was going to take, and it's taken us a year, a little over a year if you talk about hooking investors beforehand. I mean, there was a fair amount of planning up to that point. So maybe a year and a half in all. But we went down into the studio, down to North Carolina last summer. Worked with a producer named Steve Gronbach. No huge credits, really. He did the latest Rain Parade album, which was a pretty fine effort. He pretty much changed Don Dixon's diapers when he was learning how to be a big-time musician and producer down in North Carolina. And we enjoyed working with him a whole lot.
And Dump Truck, which is a Boston
That's right,
band.
another Boston
Very
band he
fine
worked
band.
with. He did a fine job with them, too.
So tell us about, just to give people a flavor for what it's like when you go into a studio. Do you have everything perfectly rehearsed, prepared, you go in there and you lay it down in one take, and then you just put over the overdubs? Or is it
Not one
quite
take.
as-
It's never one take, but you have to have things as worked out as you can, as you possibly can beforehand. You want everyone to be able to know their parts and be able to play them without necessarily listening to all the other parts. But you're talking about $100 an hour for 24-track studio time these days.
So you're not in the position like the Rolling Stones where they can go in and just go in the studio and start making up the songs as they go along?
No, obviously not, and it's a very, it's sort of your big moment, you know. It's kind of like, as a musician in our position, you want obviously to get the opportunity to be able to use the real sound, you know, and see what you're like when you're in that spot. But the sort of the painting supplies, or the whatever you call it, are so dear that you have to wait for your chance and really be ready. And when you go in, you have to be better than you've got to be like great, you know. It's sort of your chance. It can be nerve-wracking in some ways. It's a very interesting process, though. It's a lot of fun to actually go in and
spend
feel
all that
yourself
money.
expand. Well, yeah, and have all your musical ideas really laid down finally in stone. It's miraculous.
At least in petroleum product.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation in a few minutes. First, we're going to go to another music video, and this is One People. And we'll go to the tape, and then we'll come back and continue and maybe hear a little music from David. So let's go to the tape.
You burning desire that spreads throughout the land to every woman and every man. They travel mountains. It's a burning desire that spreads throughout the land to every woman and every man. Faith, faith. Oh yeah. Faith. Oh yeah. You gotta have faith. You gotta have faith. Right? Kevin Crockett on the lead guitar. Rastafari.
Welcome back. That was One People. And we're back with our final installment of an interview with Clash Action. And we've got Neil and David. At this point, you know them well enough that you don't need their last names. And so let's get into the music. Instead of just trying to describe it verbally, let's start hearing a little bit about the music that you play. So Neil, if you could maybe describe kind of one area of influence in your music, and then David, if you might be able to play one of your songs that illustrates that.
For a long time, actually from the time we were conceived, we had a lot of reggae influence, and that's what you just saw with One People. And there's a definite guitar feeling to reggae, with the guitar playing chords on the 2 and 4, pretty percussive sound, pretty clean sound. And that and the drums and the bass are bass, of course. Gotta have that bass. But that's what distinguishes reggae from a lot of other music. So why don't you wank on that thing there? Just
Okay,
a couple simple chords.
This is a segment from the first verse of a song called Voices from the Past.
There you have the wanking reggae guitar.
So you're all dead. They're all
like a-
downstrokes.
Yeah,
Is that a
all
character?
down
2 and
strokes.
4
Yeah,
are the
Second
are
and the fourth beat.
second
Right.
and fourth beat.
Okay, now what would be some of the different rhythmic things you would throw in a different influence, for example?
Well, we play some like fast, sort of horn type boogie woogie numbers, like I Feel Good and stuff like that, and that's got a lot of sort of fast guitar parts and simple 2-note lines from
Yeah.
So what would the rhythm be
R&B,
to something like that?
Yeah, play.
Something like more shuffle.
Real staccato kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have to fill
High
in with
end
your
little
imagination
chords
for the
there.
bass and the drums.
Yeah, right. That's one of the drawbacks about trying to illustrate something like this with just a guitar.
Yeah, it sounds really thin.
What about one influence you mentioned was klezmer, which is a special liking of mine. Is there something that you could play for a sample of that?
Ooh.
Need some
Well-
horns for that stuff. Really. I mean,
It's got it's real up tempo, sort of almost flamenco style guitar parts, but the horn parts are very particular. They have their own accents and their own sort of history and feel. It's a particular sound.
So the other thing that you talked about is that you're focusing more on rock these days than you had
Yeah.
in the past. What is there any special reason for wanting to focus more in that direction?
yeah, well, it's not even that we consciously wanted to. I mean, I guess we came to that conclusion eventually, but I mean, let's face it, that's what we were brought up on. That's what we heard when we were kids, and that's what we're the best at. I mean, my cousin is heavily into this Chinese instrument. It's like a Chinese cello, and they say, look, no white boys can play these things like they're meant to be played, and we can't play stuff. I mean, nobody can cross into another culture and absorb all the little stylistic twists, little touches here and there. It might sound good to somebody that's not from that culture.
But somebody from there.
But
would
somebody from there invariably recognizes that, look, you weren't raised in this culture. You haven't been immersed in it, and you don't have it quite right.
So that the music you're doing more nowadays flows more directly from your own roots.
From our roots, yeah.
So what would be, what's kind of one of your favorite tunes that the band is doing that's more in the rock vein?
Well, it's hard because we apply it in many different places.
Yeah,
you
see,
know.
that's...
So there are breaks in songs that have a lot of rock and roll. Like there are songs that are straight rockers. It's more the tone and the timbre. Like I go for a much heavier guitar sound when I'm playing rock and roll. It's more sustained. You know, play a lot of sort of
that sounds
bent.
great coming through your little TV speaker.
Yeah, it's more of a bent note style, more sustained notes.
It's a much thicker tone.
Yeah, it's a much thicker tone. You know, that kind of play faster, play harder.
Well, David, how has your
Play
playing
uglier.
evolved over the last few years?
Well, I've become much more performance-oriented than I was being in the band and playing with these guys. It's, you know, I spent years sort of sitting around in college and at home playing the guitar by myself, and finally came out in bands. And it takes a while to get a sense of what really carries across on stage. Sort of being big and simple is much easier. Or not much easier, much harder, but much more effective than to be sort of think of yourself as a virtuoso and play a lot of notes and you know, be busy and all over the place.
Well, it's also a shift from focusing on yourself as the audience, in effect, to focusing on other people.
Yeah.
And more appealing to what they want to hear than what you personally want to hear.
And also having to interact with other musicians.
That's a big one.
Sure. Some people never learn how to do it.
You're looking at one of them. So,
Soloist forever.
back to the record briefly. It's coming out in a few weeks. And if audience members want to go out and look for it.
And look for it, they should look for Class Action. It says it right across the top. Beautiful album cover by Karen Lanzoni.
Yes.
She'll love me when I tell her.
What was her name again?
Karen Lanzoni.
Okay.
And we are Neil, and I'm David, and the drummer's name is Stan, and the lead singer who doubles on trumpet, his name is Dana, and the keyboard player is Scott.
And the name of the band is Class Action, and the record is called Things You Left Behind.
And do you have any distribution outlets at airtime?
Rounder.
Definitely
Rounder.
in the New England area, yeah, Rounder's going to be covering that for us. We're talking to Important out of New York and Celluloid. So at the very least, we'll have the East Coast covered.
Yeah, Scott and I both
We'll
work
have the
for
broadcast area covered, I'd say.
All right. Well, I assume that we're about out of time here. 1 minute?
Wow,
wow. Great.
We've been trying to squeeze things in on this side, but now we
All
can
right.
just stretch back for a minute.
How about a little music to take us out here?
Okay, this is my source study. This I learned in college. Let's see.
It's the only thing you learned in college.
I'll play the abbreviated version and spare you.
Okay, got about 15 seconds left here.
That's 15 seconds worth, I guess.
That was great.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, Greg.
It
very
was
much.
enjoyable.
It was.
Reliving my own musical past vicariously. And is it that time? Yes. Oh, darn it, we're out of time. And it's time to wrap it up. This was a show on music, a music video, with our special guests, Class Action. Thanks for watching. Tell your friends if they want to watch the show again in Somerville. Tune in the same time next week. And I'm Greg Rosenberg, your host. Good night.
A nice breeze blows in whenever the big fella cracks a grin. And when the time and the place is right, we sit down, sip some bouillabaisse. Oh, little, I'm gonna have me a little fun. I got a candle I can get a lot of reading done. Somewhere the sun is shining. On this world, but not for me. Two lovers' hearts are rising. Oh, I love before I'm free. And I feel like Jonah in the belly of the whale. I get so lonely in the belly of the whale. Yeah, I feel like Jonah in the belly of the whale. To the death for you didn't please everyone. Got thrown off the boat before the trip was done. So with a smile on your face, you disappeared without no trace.